My beloved child, before you do anything else, before you scroll, before you tell yourself, this is just another voice, stop. I am not interrupting you by accident. This moment was chosen. You were drawn here for a reason that goes deeper than curiosity. Something in you needed this, even if you could not explain it. Do not rush past this. Do not tell yourself you will come back later. Later is not promised. This moment is alive, and it is meant for you. I know how fast your world moves. I know how many messages fight for your attention every day. I know how easy it is to click away when something feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable. But listen to me now. If you stay, something will begin to shift inside you. If you leave, you may miss what you have been asking for in quiet moments when no one else was listening. I see you. Not the version of you that everyone else sees, but the one you carry inside. I see the exhaustion you hide behind routine. I see the questions you don't ask out loud. I see the nights when your mind refuses to rest, replaying worries you wish you could silence. I see the mornings when you wake up already tired, already bracing yourself for another day of holding it together. You have been strong longer than people realize. You have learned how to function while hurting. You have learned how to smile while carrying weight no one else knows about. And sometimes you wonder if anyone truly notices, or if this is just how life is supposed to feel now. Let me answer you clearly. This is not how it was meant to be. I know you've tried to fix things. You've tried to stay positive. You've tried to push through. You've told yourself that others have it worse, that you should be grateful, that you shouldn't complain. But pain doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. Weariness doesn't vanish just because you keep moving. And deep down, you know that something inside you has been asking for more than survival. That is why you are here. Not because you are weak, but because you are ready. Ready does not mean you have everything figured out. Ready does not mean you feel confident or brave. Ready simply means you stopped running for a moment long enough to listen. As you hear my voice, do not strain to understand everything. Understanding is not required right now. Presence is. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your jaw unclench. Let your breathing slow, even if only slightly. You don't need to force peace. Peace comes when you stop resisting the moment you are in. I know what you are carrying. I know the fear that whispers late at night, asking, what if nothing changes? I know the frustration that rises when progress feels slow or invisible. I know the disappointment that comes when hope has been deferred too many times. And I know how dangerous it feels to hope again when you've been let down before. But hear me carefully. I am not like the things that failed you. I am not limited by time, by circumstance, or by what has already happened. I am not discouraged by how long it has been or how complicated it feels. What looks tangled to you is clear to me. What feels permanent to you is temporary to me. I did not bring you here to tease you with words. I brought you here because something real is unfolding. Even now, beneath your awareness, there is movement. Even now, something that felt stuck is beginning to loosen. You may not feel it yet, and that is okay. Not everything meaningful announces itself loudly. You have learned to live in a constant state of alert. Your body has been holding tension for longer than you remember. Your mind has been preparing for impact instead of rest. And over time, that state began to feel normal. But normal does not mean healthy, and familiar does not mean right. I want you to know something important. You are not broken. You are tired. You are not failing. You are carrying too much alone. You are not weak for feeling this way. You are human, and you were never meant to bear everything by yourself indefinitely. There were moments you questioned whether I was listening, moments you prayed and felt nothing shift, moments you wondered if your words were reaching anywhere at all. Those moments hurt more than you admit, because they made you doubt not just the outcome, but the connection. But let me tell you what you could not see then. I was there the entire time. I heard the prayers you whispered because you didn't have strength for anything louder. I heard the sighs you let out when words felt useless. I heard the silence when you had nothing left to say. Silence does not mean absence. Silence is often where I work the deepest. I know the world has taught you to measure value by results, by speed, by visible change. But some of the most important work happens slowly, quietly, beneath the surface, where roots are forming before growth appears. You have been changing even when you thought you were stuck. You are not here by chance. Out of all the moments you could have landed in, this is the one you are in now. That matters. Timing matters. And this timing is intentional. Stay with me a little longer. Not because you are afraid to miss out, but because something in you recognizes truth when it hears it. Let that part of you lead right now, even if your mind is unsure. I am not asking you to do anything dramatic. I am not asking you to promise anything. I am simply asking you not to leave. Attention is powerful. When you give attention, you create space, and space is where transformation begins. You may notice thoughts trying to pull you away. You may feel the urge to check something else, to multitask, to keep moving. That urge is not random. Distraction often shows up right before something meaningful takes root. Gently resist it, not with force, but with choice. You don't need perfect faith. You don't need confidence. You don't need to feel spiritual or strong. You only need to stay present. I can work with presence. I can work with honesty. I can work with the heart that is tired but open. I know you've been carrying questions about your future, questions about your body, questions about your purpose, questions about whether things will ever feel lighter. Those questions are not ignored. They are not foolish, and they are not unanswered. Some answers take time, because you are being prepared to receive them fully. Right now, preparation is happening. Alignment is happening. Something inside you is beginning to settle, even if you can't put it into words. That settling is not passive. It is active restoration. You may not realize how much pressure you've been under until it begins to lift. You may not realize how tense you've been until your body starts to relax. That doesn't mean you imagine the strain. It means you are finally being allowed to release it. I want you to hear this clearly. You are not late. You are not behind. You have not missed your moment. This is part of it. This pause, this listening, this stillness. This is not wasted time. This is necessary time. Stay, let the moment do its work. Let the noise fade a little more. Let your breathing deepen. You don't need to chase anything. You don't need to perform. You don't need to prove your worth. You are already known. What is coming next builds on this. What unfolds from here goes deeper, but it requires that you don't rush away before the foundation is set. Foundations are quiet. They don't look impressive, but they hold everything that comes after. You are safe here. You are seen here. And this is only the beginning. You stayed. And that choice matters more than you know. Many people feel the pull of moments like this and walk away before anything has time to settle. But you remained, even if part of you wasn't sure why. That tells me something about your heart. It tells me you are not just looking for noise or comfort. You are looking for truth, for relief, for something real that doesn't fade the moment the screen goes dark. I want you to understand what happens when you stay. When you slow down long enough to listen, layers begin to surface. Things you've buried under busyness start to rise. Feelings you postponed because life demanded productivity begin to speak. This can feel uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is often the doorway to healing. You have spent a long time adapting, adjusting your expectations, lowering the bar of what you allow yourself to hope for. At some point, you stopped asking for relief and started asking only for endurance. You told yourself that if you could just get through the day, that would be enough. And maybe for a while, it had to be. But endurance was never meant to be the final destination. I see how your body learned to carry stress as if it were normal. How your muscles tightened without you noticing. How your breathing became shallow without you realizing it. How your mind learned to stay alert even when there was no immediate danger. This didn't happen overnight. It was learned slowly, through repeated moments of pressure, disappointment, and responsibility. And here is something important. Your body did not do this to betray you. It did this to protect you. It adapted because it believed it had to. But what protects you in one season can become a burden in another. What once helped you survive may now be what is exhausting you. That is why this moment is different. This is not about pushing harder or trying one more technique. This is about allowing what has been holding you up to finally rest. And rest does not mean giving up. Rest means trusting that you do not have to control everything to be safe. I know letting go feels risky. You learned to stay in control because control felt like stability. But control is tiring, and it was never meant to be carried alone. You were designed for connection, for support, for a peace that doesn't depend on constant effort. As you continue listening, I want you to notice something subtle. Notice if your breathing has changed since you first began. Notice if your shoulders feel even slightly lower. Notice if your thoughts feel less scattered, even for a moment. These shifts may seem small, but they are meaningful. They are signs that your system is responding to safety. Safety is where healing begins. Not fear, not pressure, not urgency. Healing begins when your body and mind realize they no longer have to brace for impact. You have been bracing for a long time. You braced for bad news. You braced for disappointment. You braced for things to go wrong because they often did. And eventually, bracing became a habit, a background state you carried everywhere. But constant bracing leaves no room for restoration. I am inviting you into something gentler now, not shallow, not passive, but gentle, in the way that real strength is gentle. Strength that doesn't need to prove itself. Strength that knows when to soften. You may feel emotions rising as you listen. Sadness you didn't expect. Anger you never allowed yourself to express. Grief for the version of you that had more energy, more ease, more hope. Let those emotions come. They are not signs of weakness. They are signs of honesty. Nothing you feel in this moment is too much. Nothing you carry surprises me. You don't need to filter yourself here. You don't need to explain or justify what you feel. Being real is enough. There were times you felt guilty for needing rest. Times you judged yourself for not being as productive as you once were. Times you compared your pace to others and felt like you were falling behind. But your worth was never measured by output. You are not behind in life. You are in process. And process is rarely linear. It moves forward, then pauses, then deepens. Sometimes it looks like nothing is happening when everything is being rearranged underneath. You are in a rearranging season. Things that no longer serve you are loosening their grip. Beliefs that kept you going but also kept you small are being questioned. Expectations that were placed on you without your consent are beginning to fall away. This can feel disorienting because identity often gets tangled up in survival strategies. But hear this clearly. You are more than what you had to become to survive. You are more than your coping mechanisms. You are more than your pain tolerance. You are more than your ability to push through. There is a softer, truer version of you underneath all of that. And that version has been waiting patiently. As you stay here, you are giving that part of you permission to breathe. You don't need to rush toward answers. Answers will come. But clarity grows best in calm environments. Insight follows safety. When your system settles, understanding begins to surface naturally. This is why distraction tries so hard to pull you away. Because distraction keeps things shallow. It keeps you from noticing what is actually happening inside you. But depth is where change takes root. I want you to keep listening, not because you are obligated, but because you are beginning to reconnect with yourself in a way you may not have in a long time. This connection is not dramatic, it is quiet, it is steady, and it is real. There is nothing you need to fix right now, nothing you need to decide, nothing you need to resolve. This moment is not about solutions. It is about allowing yourself to be supported instead of always being the one who supports everyone else. You have been the strong one for so long that you forgot what it feels like to be held emotionally, to be met instead of expected, to be understood without having to explain everything. Let that be different here. Notice how staying feels different from rushing. Notice how the urge to move is slowly being replaced by a sense of grounding. This grounding is important. It prepares you for what comes next. Because what comes next goes deeper than awareness. It moves toward release, toward restoration, toward changes that don't just inspire you emotionally, but actually affect how you live, how you feel in your body, how you show up in the world. But depth requires trust, and trust grows through consistency. Each moment you remain, you are teaching yourself that it is safe to slow down, that it is safe to feel, that it is safe to receive. You don't need to rush ahead. There is no finish line here. There is only unfolding, and this unfolding is leading somewhere meaningful. Stay just a little longer. The next part builds on this foundation. What you are sensing now will begin to take shape. What feels subtle will become clearer. What has been heavy will start to lift in ways you can recognize. This is not the end of the work. This is the doorway, and you are still here. You are still here, and that tells a deeper story than words ever could. Staying was not accidental. It was a response. Something inside you recognized that this moment was more than information. It was invitation. And now, because you stayed, we move into something that cannot be rushed and cannot be forced. There is a quiet shift that happens when someone stops merely listening and begins to receive. You may not have noticed the exact moment it began, but you can feel the difference now. The space around you feels different. The weight you were carrying feels slightly lighter, not because everything is solved, but because you are no longer holding it alone. This is where restoration begins, not in dramatic breakthroughs or sudden clarity, but in the gentle return of trust. Trust in your own body. Trust in your own pace. Trust that healing does not always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it arrives as permission to exhale, You have spent so much time preparing for things to go wrong that you forgot how to prepare for things to go right. Your nervous system learned vigilance, not because you were weak, but because life demanded it. And now, unlearning that vigilance takes patience. It takes safety. It takes moments like this. Notice how your body feels right now, not how you think it should feel, not how you wish it felt, just how it feels. There is wisdom there. Your body has been speaking to you for a long time, not to punish you, but to protect you. Pain, fatigue, tension were never betrayals. They were messages asking for care. And now care is being given. You do not need to force change. You do not need to convince yourself that everything is fine. Real healing does not require denial. It requires honesty paired with compassion. You are allowed to acknowledge what hurt without reliving it. You are allowed to name what was heavy without carrying it forward. This is a turning point, not because your circumstances instantly change, but because your relationship with yourself begins to change. You stop seeing your body as an obstacle and start seeing it as an ally that has been working overtime to keep you alive. There is strength in you that was forged quietly. Strength that doesn't show up in loud victories, but in resilience, in endurance, in the decision to keep going even when hope felt thin. That strength has not disappeared. It is simply being redirected now toward restoration instead of survival. As you listen, you may feel emotion rise again. This time, it may feel different, softer, less sharp. That is not numbness. That is integration. Your system is learning that it is safe to process without being overwhelmed. You are not behind in your healing. There is no schedule you failed to meet. Healing unfolds at the pace of safety, not expectation. And safety cannot be rushed. I want you to hear something clearly. Without doubt, you are allowed to want more than coping. You are allowed to want peace, energy, clarity, and joy. Wanting those things does not make you ungrateful. It makes you honest. You were never meant to live in constant recovery mode. You were meant to live fully present, connected and alive in your own body. That version of life is not gone. It has simply been waiting for the right conditions to return. Those conditions are forming now. You may notice that your thoughts feel quieter, not empty, but less demanding. That is because your mind is no longer fighting for control. It is beginning to trust the moment. Trust creates space, and space allows new patterns to form. This is where something important happens. You begin to realize that you do not have to fix everything today. You do not have to answer every question. You do not have to carry tomorrow's weight on today's strength. Right now is enough. This moment is enough. You being here is enough. And from this place of enough, change becomes possible. Not forced change, not performative change, but sustainable change that lasts because it is rooted in truth, not pressure. You may find that after this, you respond differently to stress, that your body recovers a little faster, that your reactions soften, that your breath deepens more easily. These are not coincidences. These are signs of recalibration. Your system is remembering what regulation feels like. You are remembering what it feels like to be present without bracing. And this memory matters, because from here, your choices begin to shift. You listen to yourself more closely. You honor your limits sooner. You rest without guilt. You speak more honestly. You stop pushing past signals that were asking for attention. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. You may not notice all of these changes immediately, but you will notice them over time. And when you do, I want you to remember this moment, this pause, this decision to stay. Because staying changed something. You didn't just consume content. You participated in an experience. You allowed yourself to slow down in a world that rewards speed. And that choice created a ripple. Others will feel it when you speak. Others will sense it when you show up. Others will notice the steadiness in you that wasn't there before. And you won't need to explain it. It will be evident. If you feel moved to express what you experienced, do it. Not because you are told to, but because sharing grounds insight. It makes the internal real. Words have power when they come from truth. And if you feel gratitude, let it rise naturally. Gratitude is not obligation. It is recognition. You stayed, you listened, you allowed something to shift. That matters. This is not an ending. This is integration. What you've experienced continues beyond this moment, unfolding quietly into your days, your choices, your body, your life. Carry this with you gently. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not broken. You are becoming aligned with a steadier, truer way of being, and that alignment will continue to grow.